Welcome to Night Shift Knowledge, a quiet place in the late hours where you can finally let go of the day. Take a moment to settle in, soften your shoulders, and allow the busy world to fade completely into the background. Tonight, we are going on a gentle journey through the fascinating corners of science, biology, and history. Before we begin, please know that the screen will fade to dark very soon. You can safely rest your eyes and leave this video playing as you drift off to sleep. I would also love to hear from you. Please leave a comment below with a general topic you would like me to cover in a future video. It is always a pleasure to read your ideas and shape this channel around what brings you peace. If you find comfort in this space, a like and a subscribe would be deeply appreciated. To ensure the next video quietly finds its way to you, please tap the notification bell. So as your breathing slows and your room grows a little darker, let your curiosity drift along with my voice. Let us begin. Imagine a map of the Atlantic Ocean. Your eye follows the coast of Africa down past the Cape of Good Hope and out into the blue. You keep going for over 2,000 kilometers of open water where the waves roll uninterrupted from Antarctica. And there in that immense emptiness, a speck of rock appears. This is Tristan da Cunha, the most remote inhabited island on Earth. To get there is a journey of epic patience. It begins in Cape Town, South Africa. You board one of the island's few fishing vessels, and then you sail for 6 days, sometimes 7. There is no airport. No airstrip. Just you, the ship, and the endless horizon. The sea changes from blue to a deeper, colder grey. The air turns sharp. Then on the 7th morning, a shape breaks the skyline. It's not a gentle tropical island. It's a volcanic peak shrouded in cloud rising sheer from the ocean depths. This is home for about 250 people. They call their home Edinburgh of the Seven Seas. But everyone just says, the settlement. Imagine a cluster of about 80 houses painted in bright colours. They sit on a narrow green plateau sandwiched between the black volcanic cliffs and the pounding surf. There are no streets, just a few lanes, no traffic lights, no neon signs. The order is quiet and deliberate, a human footprint against a monumental landscape. The air smells of peat smoke, of salt, and of earth. Life here is defined by a simple foundational truth. Everything you need you must get from the sea or the soil. The rhythm of the day is set by this work. So let's listen to a morning on Tristan. Before dawn you'd hear the deep thrum of diesel engines. The island's fishing boats are heading out. Their target is the Tristan rock lobster, what they call crayfish. This is the island's lifeline, its only real export. The men, and they are almost all men, navigate waters known only to them. They haul pots from the deep, cold currents. A good catch means credit at the island store. It means supplies for the community. It is their connection to the wider world. On land, as the sky lightens, another kind of harvest begins. Behind the houses are the potato patches. The land is divided into numbered plots granted to each family. It is communally owned. You cannot buy it or sell it. You simply have the right to work it. So families tend their patches, as they call them. They plant, they weed, they harvest. The potato is a staple. It's in every meal. This isn't farming for profit. It's farming for survival. Roaming freely between the houses and the fields, you'd hear the gentle sounds of livestock, cattle, sheep. A few geese. They graze on the common grass, another shared resource. They are rarely penned. Everyone knows which animal belongs to whom. It's a system built on a deep, unspoken trust. The community is so small that every face is familiar. Every name has a story. This is the daily reality on the edge of the world, a life of tangible work. You fish, you dig, you mend. Your labor doesn't earn a number in a bank account. It directly fills a plate or heats a home. There is a profound clarity to it, but also a profound vulnerability. The weather dictates everything. A storm can keep the boats in port for days. A blight could threaten the potato crop. The island provides, but it also demands. The isolation is absolute. That 6-day sea voyage isn't just a trip. It's a barrier, a moat. When the last ship of the season leaves for Cape Town, the island is alone, completely alone, for months. No one can leave. No one can arrive. They are a tiny, self-contained universe floating in the South Atlantic. So how did anyone ever come to live in such a place? Who were the first people to look at this forbidding volcano and think, yes, we can build a life here? That story begins with shipwrecks, stubborn soldiers, and a handful of castaways who started it all. That's our next chapter. Now we've arrived at the island's present. But how did this community even begin? How did people come to live in such a place and decide to stay? Their story doesn't start with a grand plan. It starts with a shipwreck. Or rather, a series of them. The island itself was discovered by accident in 1506. A Portuguese admiral, Tristão da Cunha, sailed past it in a storm. He gave it his name but didn't land. For centuries, it was just a dot on the map for sailors, a useful landmark and a terrifying hazard. Whalers and sealers sometimes stopped in the 1700s and early 1800s. They took what they needed from the shores and left. No one thought to live there permanently. It was too remote and too harsh. That changed in 1816, not because of the shipwreck, but because of war. The British Royal Navy sent a garrison to the island. Their mission was to prevent the French from using it as a base to rescue Napoleon. He was imprisoned on St. Helena, another remote island to the north. The soldiers built a small fort, looked out at the vast ocean, and waited. Then, a year later, Napoleon died. The garrison was ordered home. But one man refused to leave. His name was Corporal William Glass, a Scotsman from the Royal Artillery. He saw something in this wild place, a chance. He petitioned to stay with his wife, Maria, and their 2 children. 2 other men decided to join them. So, in 1817, the Royal Navy ship sailed away. On the beach stood 2 families, totaling just 6 people. They were left with some basic supplies, seeds, and a promise that a ship would call once a year. They were castaways by choice. Imagine their first winter. The wind screaming off the South Atlantic. The isolation was absolute and complete. Their survival depended on what they could grow, catch, or build together. There was no room for selfishness. From this tiny, stubborn beginning, a principle was born. Everything was shared. Work was communal. The land, they decided, belonged to all of them. This was the seed of Tristan's unique system. For a long time, the Glass family and their companions were it, the only people on the island. Their numbers grew slowly with new children. Then, in 1826, the first major shipwreck brought new blood to the community. The Blendon Hall, an English merchant ship, ran aground in a furious gale. The crew made it ashore, exhausted and with nothing. They were stranded for months, living off the kindness and the shared resources of the Glass settlement. When rescue finally came, most of the crew left. But a few stayed. They'd married island women, or simply found a place in this tight-knit group. They were absorbed into the community, taking on the communal ways. The population and the number of founding family names grew a little. Then came the most famous shipwreck. In 1853, the American clipper ship Mabel Clark was driven onto the rocks. All on board were lost, except for 2 sailors, an Italian named Gaetano Labarello and a Dutchman named Peter William Groyen. They clung to wreckage and washed up, half dead, on Tristan's shores. The islanders took them in, nursed them back to health, and gave them a home. Like the survivors from the Blendon Hall, they stayed. They married into island families. Their names, Lavarello and Green, are still on the island today. These shipwrecks were tragedies, but for the tiny settlement, they were also a form of fate. They brought new skills, new strength, and new genetic lines to a very small pool of people. Each group of survivors arrived with nothing. They owed their lives to the community, and in return, they adopted its rules. The rule of sharing. The rule that no one owns the land, but everyone has a right to use it. This is how the population reached a critical mass. Not through planned immigration, but through the ocean's cruel randomness. By the 1850s, there were around 100 people living there, all descendants of or married to descendants of William Blas and those early castaways, and all living under the system he helped create. The original communal land system was formalized around this time. It's known as the village garden system. The only flat, fertile land on the island is a narrow strip near the settlement. This was divided into long, thin plots. Every family head, every man who married and started a household was granted one of these plots. Not to own, but to farm for life. It could be passed to children, but it could never be sold. It was a right of belonging. If you were part of the community, you had a share of its most vital resource. Outside the village gardens, the rest of the island was, and still is, common land. Everyone's sheep and cattle graze together on the slopes. Everyone can collect wood from the same areas. The beaches and the fishing grounds belong to everyone. This wasn't a political ideology. It was pure, practical necessity. On an island this small and this remote, hoarding meant someone else starved. Cooperation meant everyone survived. So, the history of Tristan da Cunha is not a story of conquest or exploration. It's a story of absorption. Of a small knot of people clinging to a rock who opened their doors to other victims of the sea. Their society was forged in that shared experience of survival. A culture where you help your neighbor because tomorrow you might be the one who needs help, where the community itself is the only safety net you have. That collective spirit, born from shipwrecks and the will of a Scottish corporal, would be tested to its absolute limit. But that's a story for a later chapter. For now, the community was established. The rules were set, and life, in its own unique rhythm, carried on. The community was forged by necessity, by shipwrecks and stubbornness. That shared struggle created something unique, not just a settlement, but a system. A way of living together that, to outsiders, seems almost from another time. Imagine a place where money exists, but you hardly ever touch it. Where your wealth isn't measured in a bank account, but in what you can grow, what you can catch, and who you can call on for help. That's the economic engine of Tristan da Cunha. It's a blend of the formal and the deeply personal. The British pound sterling is the official currency, but inside the community, cash is quiet, almost invisible. The heart of this system is land. And on Tristan, land isn't something you own, it's something you're granted. It's communally owned by the island as a whole. Plots are allocated for homes and for farming. You can build your house there, you can grow potatoes on it. But you can't buy it. And you can't sell it. This simple rule prevents something fundamental. It prevents wealth from being built on property. It means no one can accumulate land, leaving others with none. Disparity in that most basic form is structurally impossible. So what do people own? They own their homes, their boats, their fishing gear, the fruits of their labor, and they trade those fruits. This is where the barter system comes alive. It's the daily language of exchange. If you have a good potato crop but your neighbor has just caught a fine haul of fish, a trade is natural. A basket of potatoes for a few fresh cod. It's not a transaction with a calculated price. It's a conversation between needs. Someone might help you repair your roof, and in return, you might give them some of your homemade jam or help them with their fishing nets next week. Labor is currency. Homemade goods are currency. The trust that the favor will be returned, that's the foundation. Then there's the community store. It's the central hub for goods that can't be produced on the island. Fuel, medicine, some clothing and hardware. It operates on a cash basis, but also on a system of credit. Islanders can have accounts. And often, those accounts are settled not with pounds, but with produce. With crayfish, the island's main export, which the store then sells for actual currency. So even the formal store is woven into the informal web of exchange. This creates a life where cash is rarely needed for daily living. You don't pay cash for most of your food. You grow it, or catch it, or trade for it. You don't pay cash for many services. You offer your own skills in return. The rhythm of life is set by the seasons and the sea, not by a paycheck. But Tristan isn't completely cut off from the global economy. It needs things that only money can buy. Fuel for the boats and generators, medical supplies, parts for machinery. So how does this moneyless community get the money it needs? The answer comes from the cold, rich waters surrounding the island. The Tristan rock lobster, what they call crayfish, is a prized export. The island holds lucrative fishing licenses. It sells these licenses to foreign companies. That brings in substantial British pounds. Also, Tristan da Cunha stamps, beautiful stamps featuring island birds and landscapes, are collector's items worldwide. Their sale brings in revenue too. This outside cash is managed communally. It flows into the island's administration. It pays for those vital imports. It funds public services. So there's a cash economy, but it exists mostly at the border of the community. It's the interface with the outside world. Inside the village, among neighbors, the old ways hold strong. Think about what this means for a person's day. You wake up in your home, on your granted plot. You might tend your potato patch, or head out on your boat with your brothers. The fish you catch might feed your family tonight. Or it might be traded at the store for credit to get some fuel. Or given to a neighbor who helped you last week. If you need help building a shed, you ask around. People come. Their payment is the knowledge that when they need help, you'll be there. It's a system built on reciprocal obligation, on visibility. Everyone knows what you have and what you can do, and everyone knows what you might need. There's no hiding wealth here. And there's no hiding poverty either. The community sees both, and the system is designed to balance them. This doesn't mean life is easy. It's hard work. The weather's unpredictable. The sea is demanding. Crops can fail. But if your potatoes fail, you won't starve. The community store, the fishing catches of others, the shared livestock, they form a safety net. Your security isn't a private insurance policy. It's the people around you. It's a way of life that reduces the anxiety of pure individualism. You're not solely responsible for your own survival in a competitive market. You're part of a collective organism. Your labor contributes to it, and in return, it supports you. But this system also asks something of you. It asks for participation, for conformity, to some degree. It asks you to play your part, to share, to not accumulate too much for yourself. For some, this is the essence of a good life. For others, especially the young who've seen the world beyond, it can feel restrictive. That tension is central to Tristan's future. For now, the system works. It's worked for generations. It turns the island's isolation into an advantage. A closed loop where resources are circulated, not hoarded. Where value is created by hands and nets and goodwill, not by numbers in an account. So, money exists on Tristan da Cunha, but it flows around the community like a river around a stone. The daily life inside, the warm and human exchanges of goods and labour, happens in a different channel. A channel dug by history and maintained by choice. It's the system that allowed this remote community to not just survive, but to build a society. A society where, in many ways, people live without money. So the system is built on trust, on knowing your neighbour, on shared responsibility. And on Tristan da Cunha, that trust isn't abstract, it's literal, it's in your blood. Because here, your neighbour isn't just your neighbour, he's your cousin, your uncle, or your brother. This is a community where nearly everyone is related. They call themselves one big family. And that closeness creates a society unlike any other. But that same closeness, that same blood, carries a unique biological legacy too. Think about the founding of this place. A handful of men, a few women. That's where it all began. Over generations, in this extreme isolation, that small group of founders became the ancestors of nearly everyone living here today. It's what scientists call a genetic bottleneck. The gene pool is very, very small, and that has a clear physical consequence. Hereditary asthma is extremely common on Tristan. It's so prevalent that the island has become a living laboratory for genetic researchers from around the world. For the islanders, it's a simple fact of life. Many carry the gene. Many manage the condition. It's part of their shared identity, a reminder in their very bodies of their common origin. But this shared biology extends far beyond genetics. It shapes their entire social world. With so few original family names, Glass, Green, Repetto, Swain, Hagen, Lavarello, and with a population that's never exceeded 300 people, the connections are dense and deep. Everyone knows everyone, and everyone knows everyone's history. This creates a powerful, unspoken social contract. There's almost no crime. There's no police station. There's no jail. Disputes are settled by the community, by the island council, by talking it out. The greatest punishment isn't a fine or a lockup. It's the loss of respect, a loss of standing in this one big family. Imagine a place where you can't really be anonymous, where your actions are seen and remembered by people who will be part of your life forever. That's a powerful incentive to live harmoniously. It's a system built not on force, but on familiarity, on the weight of history and relationship. And that shared history is celebrated. It's woven into the fabric of their days. There are traditions here that bind the community together year after year. One of the most poignant is known as the 1961 Volcano Club Dinner. It's a yearly gathering for those who experienced the Great Evacuation. We'll explore that event in depth later, but it's a testament to how this community marks its collective memory, its shared traumas and triumphs. Then there's the Tristan da Cunha dialect. It's a unique blend of 19th century English, Scottish, and South African influences, frozen in time by isolation. Some words and pronunciations haven't changed for over a century. To hear it is to hear the history of the island in every sentence. It's another thread in the bond that ties everyone together. Communal events are the heartbeat of social life, from the annual fishing competitions to the communal potato planting and harvest. These aren't just chores, they're gatherings, moments where the whole settlement comes together, where work and celebration blend into one, where the value of the community is reaffirmed, not in money, but in shared effort and shared reward. This deep interconnection means that identity on Tristan isn't just individual, it's collective. You are who you are, partly because of who your family is, and your family is, essentially, the entire island. This can be a profound source of strength, a safety net that is biological, social, and emotional. But it also presents unique challenges. For instance, when someone needs specialized medical care that the island's small hospital can't provide, they must travel to Cape Town, or even further. That's a huge undertaking. It means leaving the family, the whole family, for months. It's a strain on the individual and on the community that supports them. For genetic researchers, the island's isolation offers a rare, clear window into human genetics. But for the islanders, it's a reminder of their vulnerability, their dependence on each other, and on the outside world for certain kinds of help. So life here is a balance between the incredible strength of their interconnectedness and the specific vulnerabilities that come from it. They are truly one big family, with all the love and all the complexity that such a phrase implies. They share a past. They share a genetic code. They share a dialect. They share their labor and their land. And they share a future. But that future was once violently interrupted. The very ground beneath their feet, the volcano that created their home, decided to remind them of its power. It shattered their isolation, it forced the entire family to leave, and it tested the strength of their bond in the most dramatic way possible. But a family, no matter how close, can be broken apart. And for the people of Tristan da Cunha, that breaking point came not from within, but from the very earth beneath their feet. For 2 centuries they had lived in the shadow of the mountain. The volcano was a fact of life, a dormant giant that shaped their world. They called it simply the peak. It was the island. And then, in 1961, it woke up. It started in the summer, earth tremors, small ones at first. Then, in early October, the ground near the settlement began to crack. Steam hissed from new fissures. The earth itself was groaning. The island's administrator sent an urgent message by radio. A volcano was stirring just 300 yards from their homes. Picture the scene on the night of October 9, 1961. The ground is shuddering. A new vent has opened in a potato patch. It's spewing red-hot lava and ash. The sky glows an angry orange. The air smells of sulfur and burnt earth. The roar is constant. A deep, terrifying rumble from the core of the planet. This was no distant spectacle. This was in their backyard. Lava began to flow towards the harbour, their only lifeline to the world. The community faced an impossible reality. Their island, their entire universe, was trying to swallow them whole. The evacuation was orderly, but it was pure chaos held at bay by discipline. A Dutch cargo ship, the Tristania, was diverted. Later, the British Royal Navy ship HMS E. Leopard arrived. The islanders had mere hours to gather what they could. They left behind their homes, their furniture, their family photographs. They herded their cattle and sheep to higher ground, hoping they might survive. They took only what they could carry. Think of the sound of that departure. The desperate lowing of abandoned livestock, the crash of the volcano in the distance, the shouts of men loading the last boats in the dark, churning water. And then the profound silence of the open sea as the ships pulled away. 264 people watched the only home they had ever known, glowing in the dark like a terrible beacon. They were refugees, heading into the complete unknown. Their destination was England, a country many had only heard of in stories. They landed in the cold, damp autumn of 1962. They were housed in an empty Royal Air Force camp near Southampton. The culture shock was absolute and brutal. Imagine leaving a remote volcanic island for the heart of swinging 60s Britain. The noise was the first assault. Not the wind and the waves, but the relentless rumble of traffic. The shriek of train whistles, the crowded, frantic pace of life. The climate was a grey, damp misery. A cold that got into your bones. They missed their sun. They missed their space. But more than anything, they missed the knowing. On Tristan, you knew everyone. You knew their story. You knew their grandparents. In England, they were surrounded by strangers who rushed past without a glance. Life was transactional. It was impersonal. It ran on money, a thing that had been almost abstract back home. Here, you needed it for everything. For warmth, for food, for a simple bus ride. The freedom of their old life was gone, replaced by the anxiety of modern economics. They were studied by scientists, written about in newspapers, treated as curiosities from a lost world. They found work in factories. Their children went to new schools. On the surface, they were adapting. But underneath, a deep, collective homesickness was festering, a longing for a place that, for all they knew, no longer existed. Reports trickled in. Geologists had visited Tristan. The main lava flow had missed the settlement by a narrow margin. Their houses still stood, but they were buried under a thick layer of black ash. The island was wounded, but it was still there. And that's when the question was put to them, a vote. Do you wish to return to Tristan da Cunha or resettle permanently in the UK? The British government assumed most would stay. They had jobs now. Their children were settling. Why go back to such hardship? The answer was unanimous, not almost. Not a majority. Every single family, every single adult. They voted to go home. The pull of the island, of their own way of life, was stronger than any modern convenience. The moneyless society, the communal land, the shared responsibility. It wasn't just an economy, it was their identity, and they wanted it back. In 1963, the first group returned. They stepped back onto a ghost town. Ash was everywhere. Drifted like black snow against their doors and windows. Their church was intact. Many of the stone houses were standing. But everything was covered, silenced, frozen in the moment they had fled. The task of rebuilding was monumental. They had to dig out their homes first. Shovel by shovel. They had to clear the ash from their precious potato patches. They had to rebuild the fishing boats, the critical lifeline to the sea. There were no contractors, no government grants to speed things along. It was just them. The family. They worked as they always had, communally, reciprocally. If your house was cleared, you helped clear your neighbours. They shared tools. They shared meals. They shared the backbreaking labour. The very system that defined them, the barter, the shared effort, became the engine of their resurrection. It was slow. It was hard. The ash had changed the soil. The first crops failed. They relied on shipments from Cape Town while they found their feet again. But with each cleared field, each repaired boat, each smoky chimney stack, the community breathed life back into the island. The volcano had forced them into the modern world. It had shown them an alternative way of life, and they had rejected it. They chose the hardship, the isolation, the shared struggle. They chose each other. The return to Tristan da Cunha wasn't just a physical journey. It was a reaffirmation, a conscious decision to preserve a world they had almost lost. They had stared into the heart of modernity and turned their backs on it to go home. But the world they returned to wasn't quite the same. The eruption had changed the coastline. It had left a permanent scar. And more importantly, their 2 years in England had changed them. they had seen the future. And now that future was beginning to knock quietly but insistently on their remote island door. And so they returned. They came back to the ash-covered slopes and the scarred earth, to the only home they had ever truly known. The volcano had tried to break them, to scatter them to the winds of the modern world. But the pull of Tristan was stronger. They rebuilt their village, stone by stone, and reclaimed their old way of life. But the world they returned to in 1963 was changing. The world outside was changing even faster. The eruption had connected them briefly and traumatically with the 20th century. That connection never fully went away. Now, 6 decades later, the people of Tristan da Cunha face a new kind of tremor, not from the earth below, but from the future ahead. They stand at a crossroads. The question is no longer about surviving a catastrophe. It's about surviving the 21st century itself. Can a moneyless society exist in a hyper-connected world? The pressures are gentle but constant, like the wind that shapes the island's trees. The first pressure is the need for connection. For generations, news from the outside world arrived by ship, weeks or months old. Communication was a crackling radio signal. Today, there is satellite internet. It's limited and expensive, but it's a window. Young islanders can now glimpse the endless stream of global life online. They see the opportunities, the different paths, the sheer scale of everything they are missing. This digital tide brings knowledge, but also a subtle sense of distance. It introduces a quiet question: what if? The second pressure is about sustainability. The community relies on a fragile economic lifeline. The crayfish, their main export, is processed in a factory that employs many islanders. It brings in the British pounds needed to buy fuel, medicine, and everything the island cannot produce. That money is vital. But that factory and the ship that carries the catch to Cape Town is their only regular physical link to the outside. It's a precarious thread. One severe storm, one shift in the fishery, and the entire economic model trembles. This creates a dilemma. To secure their future, some on the island wonder if they need to gently open the door. Not wide, but just a crack. The idea of limited, carefully controlled tourism surfaces now and then. A handful of visitors each year arriving on the same fishing vessels, staying in island homes. It would bring in more cash and diversify the economy. But it also brings the very thing their society was built to avoid: the influence of an external economy, of people for whom everything has a price tag. Because on Tristan, value isn't set by money, it's set by need and by community. You need a repair done, you ask a cousin who's good with his hands. He needs potatoes, you give him some from your plot. The librarian is paid in potatoes from every family's patch. It's a web of mutual obligation that cash would simplify and perhaps unravel. Introducing more money into daily life risks turning neighbors into customers and favors into transactions. Then there is the most personal pressure of all: the children. For higher education, for university, for professional training, the young people of Tristan must leave. They take that 6-day voyage to Cape Town and then fly onward to the United Kingdom or South Africa. They step into a world that operates on a completely different rhythm, a world of rent, salaries, individualism and noise. And every time a young person leaves, the community holds its breath. Will they come back? Some do, drawn by the deep, familiar pull of the island, by family, by a sense of purpose within the small, known world. But others find a life they prefer, or a career the island cannot support. A doctor or an engineer might struggle to practice their skills on Tristan. Each person who doesn't return is a slow, quiet erosion, a loss not just of a family member, but of the future's potential. So the islanders debate carefully, as a family does. How much of the modern world do we let in? Is satellite internet a threat to our culture or a tool for our children's education? Would a few tourists be a curiosity or the first step down a slippery slope? Can we find a way for our children to get the education they deserve and still choose to come home? They are grappling with a universal human tension, the desire to preserve what is unique and precious against the desire to progress and provide. They know what they have is rare. A place where no one is homeless, where no one goes hungry, where crime is almost unheard of. A place where your worth is not your wealth but your contribution to the whole. But they also know their isolation is no longer absolute. The satellite phone, the internet in the school, the occasional email from a relative in England, these are threads connecting them to the global web. They cannot pretend they are alone anymore. What Tristan da Cunha represents, then, is more than just a quirky historical artifact. It's a living experiment. A test case in community and resilience. It asks us profound questions, even as the islanders ask themselves, what do we truly need to be happy? Is the relentless chase for more, for newer, for richer, the only path? Or is there value, profound value, in having enough, in knowing everyone around you, in being bound by something deeper than commerce? Tristan suggests there is. Its very existence, a small village clinging to a volcano in the vast South Atlantic, is a quiet argument for a different set of priorities. But the experiment is ongoing, and its greatest challenge is ahead. The future is knocking, not with a fist, but with a steady, patient tap. Through a fiber optic cable from space, through the aspirations of its youth, through the simple need for a reliable supply of diesel and dental floss. The people of Tristan da Cunha have survived volcanic eruption, shipwreck, and extreme isolation. They have built a society that functions without money at its heart. Now they face their most complex test, navigating the modern world without losing their ancient soul. Choosing what to take from us and what to protect from us. The peak of the volcano still watches over the settlement. It is quiet now. The real rumble is the sound of the future, slowly approaching across thousands of miles of ocean. And the whole world, whether it knows it or not, is watching to see if this tiny, remarkable society can find its way. We have reached the end of tonight's topics, and it is time to let your mind completely unwind. Whatever you learned tonight, let it fade into a soft hum as you drift off. Thank you for being a part of Night Shift Knowledge and sharing this quiet space with me. Remember to leave a topic suggestion for next time if you are still awake, but for now, just rest. Sleep well, and I will be here the next time you need to quiet your mind. Good night.